Hey, welcome back to my kitchen again. I'm going to talk about the amount of protein in foods just a little bit. My new book, I actually have a copy of it in my hot hands, and this is an advanced copy, so you won't see it yet. But in this book, Body, Brain, Food, I talk a lot about a lot of things, thriving into later life and reducing dementia risk. But one of the things I talk about a lot, because my focus is mostly on people living well into their later years, is actually building muscle, maintaining muscle, and how that then supports you to live well in your later years. And one of those things is about eating good protein and doing good exercise. So among many things in this book, and obviously you can see a big book, there's a table in here later on in the book about of the protein sort of content of some foods that that you might choose to eat, and you can estimate the amount of protein then in your meal fairly easily. So what I've done here is just given you a little bit of a representation to compare the amounts of protein in foods, because the weight of a food doesn't mean how much protein it is. Some foods have got more protein than others for their weight. So 100 grams of meat doesn't mean 100 grams of protein, for example. So I'm just going to show you in visual representation what it takes to get 10 grams of protein. And I've set a few foods out here. You can't see them fantastically, but I'll lift this up so we can have a little look. So we have here on this sort of tray, we've got cheese slices. So about 3 cheese slices roundabout of the sort of, sorry, you can't see me, about 3 of the sort of cheese slices that you would get in a supermarket sort of variety, and about 2/3 of a cup of grated cheese has about 10 grams of protein. This is a little bit less than a can of tuna. One of those small cans of tuna, it's about 2/3 of a can of tuna. So that's a pretty good protein source, because if you ate your whole can of one of those little baby cans of tuna, you're getting more than 10 grams out of that. About a large chicken drumstick, and I've got a little bit of extra meat here. Oh, the falafels are escaping because that's a small chicken drumstick, and that's off a very standard shop-bought barbecue chicken. So most of those, the legs are not huge, so you'd have a little bit extra meat to get 10 grams. And of course you actually need more than 10 grams a day and every meal, and you can read more about that in the book, but this is just a comparison. Now this is falafel, and sorry about picking it up in my hands, but you know, this is a commercially made one, but even if you made it yourself out of chickpeas, you'd probably be looking at 6, 7, 8 little balls of falafel. I've also got here some noodles, some regular already cooked noodles that you might buy in the shop, and that's one of those little sleeve packets that you might get in one that's already cooked. But as you can see, it's about at least a cup and a half, 2 cups of noodles to get 10 grams of protein. And then to compare some other things, we've got mince, just regular mince, and that's about a meatball sort of size that you'd get, that you'd cup into your palm if you're making a meatball. That's about 10 grams of protein. Eggs, 2 good size eggs. These are from my chickens, aren't they lovely? Isn't that gorgeous? This olivey coloured one. It's just the variety of chicken. 2 good size eggs, it gives 10 grams of protein. I've got some tofu here. This is about 200 grams of the semi-soft variety of tofu. Read the packet label because you'll see, but yes, you can see that's a significantly larger amount of food to eat, although it's easy to eat because it's lovely and soft, than say that much meat, and that's not cooked at this stage, or 1 chicken drumstick. So you have to think about that as well. These little tiny, I love these little tiny packs now of nuts that you can get. This one happens to have walnuts, cashews and almonds, but you'd need 2 little boxes of those to get 10 grams of protein. Almond meal. This happens to be a one with a shell as well, I mean the seed coating as well, so it looks darker than some almond meal or any sort of meat meal. That's about a half a cup of almond meal there, provide 10 grams. We've got rice, about 2 good cups of rice. It's already cooked. This is already cooked rice. That's white rice. It's about 2 good cups of that. If you've got brown rice, this is not cooked yet. And this is a little bit less than a cup of uncooked brown rice. So when you cook that, you'll get 10 grams of protein. But of course, it expands a lot in size by the time you cook it. Pasta, about the amount, you know, to squeeze in your hand, a bit tight like that is about 10 grams of pasta. It's just 10 grams of protein, sorry, pasta. Lentils, about a third of a cup of lentils. Again, about a third of a cup, a little bit less than a third of a cup of uncooked chickpeas, but about a cup once they're cooked of chickpeas. And one that people often tell me about, often say, oh, mushrooms got lots of protein. Now, mushrooms do have protein, but they've also got a lot of air and a lot of water. So that in order to get 10 grams, you need about 250 grams of mushrooms. A reasonable amount. But of course, by the time that cooks down, they cook down to a smaller amount. And the other lovely thing about mushrooms is if you put them out in the sun, you get a bit of extra vitamin D. They actually make vitamin D in that bit of the mushroom when it's exposed to the sun. And when you bring it back inside after 5 minutes or so, even the ones that you bought in the shop like this, bring it back inside after the 5 minutes, it stays in the mushroom. It's really good. Anyway, that's just a bit of information. Look out for this book. It's really worthwhile. And I'll see you again. Sorry this is a long video, but hopefully it was useful.